Yeah, sleep time, exactly. You pass out. I just want to stay here all night. And, and that acetyl-CoA gets used to build what?
Fat.
Fat. It's the precursor metabolite for fat synthesis. And then you get a fatty liver, right? Because all this acetyl-CoA gets diverted over here and starts getting made, well, actually it goes all the way out here, and starts getting used to synthesize fat. Okay? So this is a syndrome called fatty liver, and it's something that happens the more you drink, okay? But it also means that it inhibits our energy generation pathways, right? So if we're trying to work out the next morning, all of our pathways to synthesize energy are feedback inhibited. But here's a really rough one, because I don't know about anybody else, but whenever I hit about mid-race, I start thinking about the Cori cycle. And I'm like, yeah, I love the Cori cycle. And look at it go. I'm like, go liver, go liver. And I start picturing my liver, and I start picturing my muscle, and I start picturing glycolysis in my muscle going, and I start picturing my muscle going really hard as I'm like putting the pedal to the metal, and I'm making tons of lactic acid in my peripheral muscle tissues, right? And I can feel it. But I'm like, come on, liver, you can do it. And the liver does something that we call the Cori cycle. Because from that lactic acid, okay, this lactate goes from your muscle to your liver, and in your liver, get this, the liver is brilliant. From the liver, in the liver, this lactate gets converted backwards into pyruvate, and from pyruvate, that pyruvate gets used to synthesize glucose, and then that glucose gets shipped back from your liver and to your muscle tissue. This is the Cori cycle. Isn't it brilliant? Because it means that as your muscles make more and more lactic acid, your liver chews it up and spits it out as glucose, as usable energy for your muscle tissues. But, check this. Turns out that when this lactate is converted back to pyruvate, it makes more NADH, which inherently is not a problem. But as it turns out, this pathway is feedback inhibited by NADH. So what raging pathway stops if you've been drinking too much and then you race? The Cori cycle. It all stops, right? You can't reclaim any of your brilliant lactate from your muscle at your liver because the Cori cycle gets inhibited by all of that NADH from all of the ethanol that you consume. So it's sort of a shitty deal in all respects because you can't do all those energy generating pathways and you can't even do the brilliant Cori cycle to allow you to utilize the lactate to make more glucose. Oh, and if you don't have more glucose, what happens in the race?
Bonk.
Bonk. And in practice too, right? Yeah, same. Okay, brilliant. So, then the question comes up. Coach, yeah, I just turned 22, and I just have worse hangovers than I used to, right? I mean, like when I was 19, you know, I could totally do the wizard staff. Like twice. Every night. And all of a sudden now, problem. Wizard staff makes me feel like shit in the morning, and I can't get over it. Well, guess what? When we're young, guess what enzyme we have more of? Brilliant. Yeah. So when we get older, that enzyme, we have less of it. we can't detox ethanol the way that we used to. And so, sorry deal for us. Yeah, your hangovers get worse and worse. So, what kinds of like practical things should we hit on here? I mean, what does this mean for us? Does it mean like no drinking ever, or like, you know, really you should only drink good beer? No Keystone Light. My opinion is that if it doesn't cost at least $5 for a beer, then it's no good. That does help, actually, because your ADH enzyme can detoxify about 1 unit per hour. So that means if you go to a party and you have 1 beer, you know, while you're nursing it the whole night, your ADH enzyme keeps up. And it's golden. Like, it's able to turn it over, it's able to detox it, and you feel fine in the morning. But if you're having more than what your ADH enzyme can keep up with, that's when you start to see all of these other impacts, and you don't feel so hot in the morning. So with our dry day, what we do is we say no more than 1 unit a day, which means just basically no more than a beer a day, or a glass of wine a day, or something.
Not a wizard's staff, though.
Yeah, not a wizard's
staff. That's not 1 unit.
Yeah. Not a I don't know. Like for me, what I tend towards is, I'm actually a 1 glass of wine a week girl. That's what I like. So I usually I really like having 1 glass of Cabernet, particularly Sweet Melissa's organic Cabernet, every week, and I tend to actually go off of that a little bit during ski season just because I'm so busy. And I just like to be like 100% functional every morning so that I know I can get up at 6:30 and get my work done or whatever it is I need to do. But it doesn't mean that you can't drink. It just indicates that there's a lot of things that you have to consider, with binge drinking. I thought it was really interesting because I found a definition that I actually kind of liked in an article by the Canadian Medical Association, defining alcoholism at its very broadest limit. And it basically is any drinking that brings about damage. And that's really broad, right? And so you're like thinking, okay, well, all drinking kind of brings about damage, which is not necessarily true. All binge drinking, maybe brings about damage. I think, to me what it is it's if something else you love suffers. That's when I would define it as alcoholism. And so, like, if you want to go to ski practice in the morning on a Sunday morning, and you can't make it because of your hangover, that's alcoholism. I mean, it's basically if something you love is suffering because of your drinking. And I think that for most of us, that's not the case, But I think it's good to have that broad definition out there and just kind of ponder it, think about it. I don't know.